I want to tell you about my origin story, as it were, in relation to my ME CFS. And the story that I've told has been that on the 6th of August 2017, I went to bed for a nap in the afternoon, and when I got up, I couldn't, I couldn't walk. I crawled across to the bathroom, and it was a shocking shift, a striking moment. And what I've realised, going back through my diary from that time, is it wasn't like that. It wasn't as shocking and striking as that. So what I did, it's true that I went to bed on a Sunday afternoon on the 6th of August for a nap. And it's true, I woke up and felt very weak and strange and wrong. But it wasn't such a dramatic shift that I realised straight away that something significant had happened. That only came, looking at my diary, a couple of weeks later. So I'm just going to read a few of the entries in my diary just to capture how it felt in that moment, just in case, that experience is helpful to anybody else. On Tuesday, the 8th of August, I wrote, it's surprisingly underwhelming in some senses, but bear in mind that I didn't know what had happened. I'm feeling a bit blue and continue to feel tired and lethargic. I long to sleep on and off all day, every day. It's a battle to accomplish anything. At moments like this, I would very much like to cry. Sometimes I get so cross with myself because I remember how I used to be and how I very occasionally still am, thrumming with energy, enthusiasm and plans. And I think, what a useless piece of shit I have become. And I watch all my plans become eroded by my inaction. So that's what I wrote. And reading it back, I'm struck by how incredibly hard I was on myself. I mean, I was pushing so hard. I was doing my best. And to talk to myself about myself that way, well, I've explored a bit of self-compassion in the intervening period out of necessity. So yeah, I don't talk to myself that way anymore. And if I do, I immediately just say, whoa, steady on. Come on, let's be kind. I then go on to write, experience tells me, oh, so little did I know, experience tells me that in all likelihood, I shall get through this and out the other side in time. Reason would suggest that the virus I had earlier this year, which lingered for so very many weeks, may be lingering still. Indeed, I have not felt right since I had that virus. So I think I have no choice but to be patient. And for the record, that virus I had, it was sinusitis. It was my third consecutive year of having sinusitis. And that year I got it around Easter and it lasted for 8 weeks. So I'd only been clear of the virus, clearly not completely, but sort of able to function again, sort of normally, for about 4 or 5 weeks prior to this happening. I go on to write, oh God, I want to cry. Everything suddenly feels so very, very hard. I can't help but wonder if my lethargy and mild depression are fallout from 4 very, very hard years, which were wonderful in so many ways, but also impossibly challenging. This last year has been a breeze in comparison, but even this year in York has had its challenges, starting a new job in a new city, selling one house, buying another. So yes, it's been a particularly challenging 5 years. I just hope that I will and can recover from it. Oh, to regain some energy. I hope I have not damaged myself permanently. I am really glad that, I'm really glad I didn't know at the time, actually, that I had. I don't know if one does bring it on oneself. I tend to think at this moment, having lived with this for the last 6 2/3 years, that one develops a propensity for ME/CFS arising from, in my case, I think it stems from viruses, in particular glandular fever, but I seem to be susceptible to all viruses. They seem to like me and do very well in my system. And I have a very poor white blood cell count, and neutrophil count is abnormally low, and all sorts of other things that have to do with the immune system. I'm just not great. So I do think that there's a physical propensity. Can and do we influence ourselves through how we live, how we think, how we eat, and the rest of it? Yes, I think we do. I think we do, and my videos are going to speak to this. It wasn't till 3 days after the nap that I started to give up trying to work. So my diary entries to that point keeps talking about, I tried to do this today. I tried to work towards my article. I tried to look at this student's work, mark this student's work, and I just couldn't do it. And it's agonizing reading it back because I know exactly what's, from this perspective, what's going on. But 3 days later, on Wednesday, the 9th of August, I gave up trying to work and found and read Dr. Sarah Myhill's book. And that was really important for me. And I would thoroughly recommend it to you if you found yourself very recently come down with this mysterious lethargy and tiredness and lack of stamina. I wrote, I have many of the symptoms of these illnesses, ME/CFS. Lethargy, difficulty concentrating, depression, a propensity to suffer insomnia, waking from a night's sleep still feeling tired, and anaemia. Also heavy periods, PMS, arthritis, and a history of recurrent viruses, including glandular fever, sinusitis, and cold sores. So all of that is quite common. Also, of course, it turns out, something I didn't realise at the time, but I did subsequently discover, is that I have a dairy and wheat allergy. So with wheat I bloat, and with dairy I get congestion and all sorts of ear problems. And apparently that's quite classic, that's quite normal. So as a girl, I had my adenoids out, had grommets in my ear because I'd become deaf through congestion. Incidentally, that's been passed on to my son, poor son. So he's also dairy intolerant and steers clear, but at least I knew what was going on and able to guide him. And then I had ear infection after ear infection and 3 burst eardrums. So that's fairly symptomatic, fairly usual for ME/CFS sufferers, some kind of allergy and commonly dairy. Then age 19, I got glandular fever and got it quite badly, but recovered quite well, seemed to recover, but then went to university and was just sick again and again and again. And of course, wasn't eating properly, was drinking far too much, staying out too late, all the other things. Was actually sick more than I was well. And then in my second year of university, I became severely depressed and didn't know what was going on. Depression back then wasn't something that was common. So that was a struggle. I learned through my 20s that diet makes a difference to my energy levels and my capacity to sleep well. So that was a lesson I came to on my own as society's culture started to learn, thank goodness. So we're talking now about the 1990s, started to learn that actually what you put in your mouth really mattered and that we are what we eat to some degree. So that improved, but then I started feeling tired and lethargy and a lack of stamina early in 2012, which was a tough moment to come down with that, and also to start to really struggle with concentration, because I'd submitted my PhD and was sort of, careering towards my viva. And then starting to work as a teaching fellow, and everything was starting to fall apart, and the anxiety started to raise, and I didn't know what was wrong. And it took a couple of years for doctors to realise, for me to realise I had anaemia. And again, just a tip to you, all right, is look after yourselves to some degree. Yes, your doctors, and I'm talking about the UK here, all right, with an overstretched, under-resourced NHS. They will check your bloods, they will, but their normal ranges are really large, right? And what I've learnt the hard way is that you can be the bottom figure when it comes to red blood cell count, the bottom figure of normal, and they'll tell you that you're fine, you're normal. You're the bottom figure, and if you were one less, you'd be classed as anemic. It's as black and white and ridiculous and arbitrary as that. So I only learned I was anemic, having been sent away by the doctor, because I knew I still didn't feel right, and went to a nutritionist who asked for my blood test results, who looked at them and said, well, you're anemic, so we need to do this. So that was a lesson. Started going on iron supplements. Then very, very, very heavy workloads for the next 5 years, extraordinarily hard. And I pushed through, and but my health worsened through that period, and I became increasingly sick more often with viruses. And that's when then the CFS hit. What I find unbelievable looking back is how little I understood what was going on around that time of the 6th of August, that first couple of weeks. So reading my diary, I keep reading how mentally, if not physically, I kept pushing. So in my diary entries, I talk about wanting to go to the theatre. And, I could just push myself to go. And this is in London. So, it was a bit of a trek. I was at my parents', and it would have been a 2-hour journey each way to go to the theatre in London. And it was like, I must go. I can't let my mate down. I've got to go. And I let him down last time. And, how tiredness just didn't feel like a good enough excuse. You can't cancel because you're tired. It's ridiculous. But it's not ridiculous.